So now let's look at our second set of examples. So something as simple as making cards. Okay, any type of visual display where you can add text, pictures, boxes, all sorts of things, and make it personal, make it their own. So cards are a good base. You can make it card size, so you don't have to worry about the dimensions of a particular piece of paper. You can just make it that size that you want it. You can also bring in other things, like animated Gifs can actually be brought into drawings, and they can show motion, and you can put text over it and things like that. And then when you export it, it will export as that type of file too, because usually these are GIF files. You also, or if you publish it, it will show it. Or you can make memes here. So just being able to put text over pictures or videos or animated GIFs are a perfect way of using drawings. Creating certificates, again, it's just text, the box, a couple of graphics, and just organizing the lines how you want it. Some people even have made a resume out of their Google drawing. So here's an example of what that might look like. You can teach idioms, so finding the right graphic that goes with whatever you're trying to explain. So these, the Noun Project and Unsplash, are good ways to find either graphics or pictures to use and teach them about fair use. Google Maps. Snap a map or do a screen capture of a map and some area and then label it. And so you can use all different colors, you can use markers, any sorts of things. You can even customize website buttons. So no matter what type of website you have, whether it's a Google site, a Weebly, or something like that, this drawing can be made into a shareable file, or basically a shareable tongue-tied here, excuse me, shareable graphic file, and so that you can download the graphic, and if you make a link on the graphic when you download, it will actually stay with it. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. But again, being able to make your own custom kind of buttons, because you might not have that option on whatever software you have. Basic graphic organizers. There's a whole set of diagrams that already have lines and things set up, such as these here, where it's just a kind of a web in a way, main topic, organizer, things like that. You can use them for essays and organize an essay. So if you're trying to give them that graphic organizer to help them walk through how they're setting up an essay and what things they need to think about, this might be their pre-activity before they start writing it. You can even do sample things like a historical Facebook. So this is a good example. Notice just a picture. There's some boxes that people are filling in, but some of this other stuff is just graphics behind it, so you don't really mess with it, but it kind of looks and feels it. This is just a text box area. So you can see different areas to fill in, and students can just type those in under the numbers. So just an example of that. Timelines. Now this is an already made timeline. There are some already built into the templates that Google has within the diagramming, but there's, as you can see, just the simple line tools and then connecting them and having different pictures or text boxes to be able to see them. And they did it in this right here. This is just in a regular kind of 8.5 by 11, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually stretch it very long and wide if you wanted to. Might not be printable, but it'd still be able to view, especially online if you're making them. You can also do it things for like parts of speech and being able to help students vet out kind of what they're noticing and looking at. So this one uses an example of have a funny picture, and then the students have to write a paragraph about the picture, and then they have to point out the nouns and the adjectives and the verbs and the prepositions, or create a simile based on the picture. So just giving them practical practice, but also giving them some fun with it. Some other samples could be like this student progression of them working on those same type of things. So you can see here's kind of the first part, and they're highlighting it, so there can be highlighting within it. Then over here you can see they're typing different parts, and they have, once they're parts, then they can start working on their paragraphs. So you can tell that there's lots of things that you could do with these, whether it's sentence parts, whether it's for writing. Story webs. You're reading a novel, and maybe you have certain characters in the story. We talked about character traits earlier, but maybe you have some sort of thing to figure out, who are the suspects and why do you consider them suspects and things like that. So they could have the sample page where they grab the photos or grab the information, and then they make their own from there. Storyboards are another cool way of doing this, and what's nice about drawings is if you're ever in Docs, there's an insert tool, and you just insert new drawing, and you can actually do your whole web kind of brainstorming, anything like this, storyboarding, and put it in drawings, but it's actually embedded inside of your Docs. So that way somebody can see, oh, this is my thought process before, and then here's the story that came from this, or this is scene one, so this is what I came up with my web or my story ideas or my storyboard here. So it just allows that kind of instant integration rather than opening up a file and then opening up the other file. Graphical note-taking, have them watch a movie. Maybe they're sharing something and doing something where they have to take notes, and you kind of set up it ahead of time as far as like the main things that they should be looking at, and then they draw in what they think and what they feel is going on as they're watching a movie. So here's just an example of that. Sketch notes. I always thought sketch notes was an interesting thing because my whole life I've always been writing notes with sketches. I never just wrote notes just for words. I always drew pictures to help me remind them. But lately it's become a big thing, and there's lots of reasons why. It's because it increases your understanding when you can have a picture associated with words or something that you're done, and it kind of helps us to fit it all together. Cornell notes. So simple Cornell notes. Notice this is just a couple of tables put together, but by doing this, it helps organize the writing for our students and for whoever's taking notes. So you can make these however you want, but this is just showing a simple way to use it if you're trying to get everybody to use notes and have it be digital. So then you can kind of follow along. You can also annotate images. So just taking a simple image and having them label or just write things about that particular picture there. So you can see that kind of stands out over here in the yellow. Or on the right here, you can see this is a picture, but we have different people inside of the drawing. And what that means is there's lots of people working on the same drawing, and they have their own kind of colors. So you could set it up where they use this color, or maybe on the side you have a couple places where they're just blank, and the student would type in and then write what they noticed. So that way you can see who did what work, and it's all visually showing you. Annotating text. I mean, you can do this in lots of places, of course, but it just makes it easier to pull out that specific text and be able to kind of focus on a teaching tool here, so you can see maybe why they thought a certain area is done. So they've highlighted it, and then you make kind of a text box, or the student would make a text box to show what this means or that means. Right here, if they're highlighted in a certain color, maybe they put an explanation for that definition of that word because it's a new word or something like that. So you can see text can be annotated because when we read, there's more behind what we see a lot of times, and this kind of would help students focus to take a paragraph at a time and kind of look at the bigger picture. It helps with note-taking, and helps with understanding content. Infographics. I love infographics. This is an example of 3 different kinds. You can see these vertical ones like this, which you see a lot of typical ones where they have the lines and they have some sort of graphical interface. Maybe there's a graph, maybe there's some sort of icon or something like that, but usually there's some sort of numbers or visual representation. Same thing here on this one. And this is just simply, it's almost like a poster, but it's like it's an infographic about the teacher. So that could be an easy way to introduce drawings either at the beginning or the end of the year type thing, or if you're looking for an infographic about a particular subject or something, you can pick that and students can go at it. Interactive posters. So again, this looks similar to what we just saw, but what could make it interactive is if they click on one of these things, it would actually go to maybe the dance recital, or maybe, you know, a video of the two people in this picture. Or here, see how it says click the link, hear more. So maybe there's audio embedded with here, so that way when you click on it, it opens up the audio file. So lots of things. Interactive definitely makes it easier. Look, all about the font right there. And then there's graphic art. And so with graphic art, you can make pictures like this. So you seem like, wow, that looks like it took a lot of time and someone might be a little hard to do, but I'm going to show this time lapse really quickly just so you can see how it's done. It does take some time, but it's using the tools right inside Google Drawings, and you can take a normal photo and make it look something like this. So let's show this one real quick. They're changing the color, they're highlighting certain areas, making little boxes. So it started off with the photo. Again and again, you can see that. So that's graphic arts. And so both of those examples are here, and we'll do that as one of our activities too. And then last but not least, last example is custom headers. So if you have a Google Form or Google Classroom and you want it to be specific, because you found pictures and you like the pictures, but you want to kind of make it more personal, you can put make your own pictures, basically. Make your own headers for these forms. Make it more consistent for your class. Maybe a certain color or certain thing. Maybe even has your class like mascot or something like that, or maybe it has your class block on there so they know when they see that particular heading, they know that they're in the right spot. So we'll do one of those too. But anyway, those are just some examples that I wanted to show you just to get your mind thinking. And just in a couple minutes here, we're going to start, and you can go ahead and start looking at how to use Google Drawings, and then we'll do some activities.